Hello everyone, welcome back to TechLab. Previously we saw how a robot can localize itself when a map already exists. But what if there is no map? How can a robot build a map of unknown environment and figure out its own position at the same time? That problem is called SLAM, Simultaneous Localization and Mapping. In this tutorial, I am going to explain SLAM in a simple and easy way. SLAM stands for Simultaneous Localization and Mapping. It solves one fundamental robotics problem. A robot enters an unknown environment. It doesn't have a map, it doesn't know its position. It must build a map and estimate its pose at the same time. That's SLAM. Now here is the deeper truth. To build a map, the robot must know where it is. To know where it is, the robot needs a map. This dependency is what makes SLAM difficult. SLAM is essentially a system for resolving this uncertainty. How a SLAM works. Imagine a robot entering a dark house. It rolls through the doorway and it has never seen this place before. There is no map, there is no GPS, and has no idea where it is. All it has are wheels to move and a laser scanner, or maybe a camera to look around. So the robot thinks, I don't know where I am, I don't know this environment, I need to figure it out. And this is exactly where SLAM begins. First, the robot looks around. The robot spins its laser and scans the space. It detects a wall in front, a wall in the left, an empty space on the right. From just this information, it creates a tiny internal map. Right now, localization is simple. Since this is the only map it has, the robot assumes I have to be at the center of this small map. At this moment, mapping and localization seem easy. But things get more interesting when the robot starts moving. Now the robot moves forward. The robot rolls forward 1 meter. Its wheel sensors tell it you moved exactly 1 meter. But in reality, movement is never perfect. Maybe the wheels slipped, maybe the floor wasn't smooth. So instead of being completely certain, the robot thinks, I probably moved 1 meter, but I'm not 100% sure. That uncertainty is very important. Now it scans again. This time, the front wall appears closer, the left wall is still visible, so the robot updates its internal map. The map becomes larger, but now the robot faces a serious challenge. It must answer two questions at the same time. Where am I now, and where exactly are the walls? And here is the key idea. The robot continuously repeats three simple steps. First, it predicts. Based on wheel motion, it estimates, I think I moved 1 meter forward. Second, it observes. It checks its sensors and asks, if I really moved 1 meter, the walls should look like this. Third, it corrects. It compares its prediction with what it actually sees. If the walls don't match perfectly, it adjusts its estimate. Maybe it didn't move 1 meter, maybe it moved 0.9 meters. So it slightly corrects its position. And after correcting its position, it updates the map again. Then it repeats the process, predict, observe, correct, update, over and over. The map helps the robot understand where it is, and knowing where it is helps the robot improve the map. They depend on each other. That's why it's called simultaneous localization and mapping. The robot builds the map and finds its position at the same time. Now let's break SLAM down into its core components. Behind all the algorithms and the math, every SLAM system is built on four fundamental pieces. Motion model. The motion model describes how the robot moves. For example, if the wheels rotate forward, the robot should move forward. If one wheel rotates faster than the other, the robot should turn. That's the ideal case. But in reality, motion is never perfect. There can be wheel slip, uneven floors, encoder errors, small mechanical imperfections. So instead of saying, the robot moved exactly 1 meter, SLAM says, The robot probably moved about 1 meter with some uncertainty. This is very important. The motion model is not deterministic, it's probabilistic. It predicts motion but with noise. Sensor model. The sensor model describes how measurements relate to the world. Different sensors provide different types of information. A LiDAR gives distance to walls and obstacles. A camera detects visual features, and an IMU measures acceleration and angular velocity. But just like motion, sensors are noisy. Measurements can be slightly inaccurate, affected by lightning, influenced by vibration. So again, Islam doesn't treat sensor readings as a perfect truth. Instead, it models them with uncertainty. The sensor model answers this question. If the robot were at this position, what should the sensor see? State estimation. Now we come to the core objective. The robot must estimate its position and the map. Together, this is called the state of the system. But here is the key idea. The robot doesn't know the exact state. It maintains a belief about the state. That belief is probabilistic. Instead of saying I am exactly here, it says I am most likely here with this level of confidence. Islam is fundamentally a state estimation problem under uncertainty. Correction mechanism. This is the heart of Islam. The robot uses the motion model to predict where it is, uses the sensor model to predict what it should observe, and compares that prediction with the actual sensor readings. If there is a mismatch, it corrects its position estimate and the structure of the map. This consistent cycle of prediction and correction keeps the system consistent. It reduces drift, it improves accuracy, and it refines the map over time. In practice, Islam faces three major challenges. Accumulated drift. Every time the robot moves, it estimates its position. But no sensor is perfect. IMUs have bias, visual tracking has noise. Each small error seems harmless, but over time, those small errors accumulate. After moving for a long distance, the estimated position can be significantly wrong. The map slowly bends. This is called drift, and drift is unavoidable in local motion estimation. Data association. Now imagine the robot sees a wall, a corner, or a doorway. It must answer a critical question. Is this something new, or have I seen this before? This decision is called data association. If the robot matches observation incorrectly, the map becomes inconsistent. If it fails to recognize a previously visited place, it misses important corrections. Data association is difficult because environment can be similar. Two hallways may look almost identical, two rooms may have similar features. Making the correct match is essential and not always easy. Loop closure. Imagine the robot explores a building and eventually turns to the where it started. Because of drift, its estimated position is slightly wrong. Now the system must detect that it has returned to a known place, add a new constraint, correct the entire trajectory. This correction is not local. It affects the whole map. If done correctly, the map snaps back into alignment. If done incorrectly, the entire map can collapse. Loop closure is computationally demanding, but this is also what makes Islam powerful. Loop closure is what allows long-term consistency. So to summarize, drift slowly pushes the map away from reality. Data association determines what matches what. Loop closure pulls everything back into consistency. And handling all three, reliably and in real time, is what makes Islam a challenging and fascinating problem. Imagine a robot walks like this: forward, turn right, forward, turn right, forward, turn right, forward. It made a square. But here is the problem. Each movement has a tiny error. Wheels slip, sensors have noise, and measurements are imperfect. So when the robot comes back to the starting point, it thinks it's almost at the start, but not exactly. Maybe it thinks it's 20 centimeters to the left. That small error is called drift. If the robot keeps moving for a long time, drift keeps growing. The map becomes wrapped. Loop closure is when the robot realizes wait, I have been here before. That's it. But what happens next is very important. The robot scans the environment again. It notices the same wall shape, the same corner, the same doorway pattern. It compares this with places stored in memory. If they match strongly, the robot concludes this is the same place I saw earlier. That decision is called loop detection. In second step, it adds a new rule. Earlier, the robot believed I'm slightly to the left of where I started, but now it has a new information. If this place is the same as the start, then my current position must equal my starting position. So it adds a rule inside its system. Current pose is start pose. This rule is called a loop closure constraint. In the next step, the robot fixes everything. Optimization. Now the robot has many rules. When I moved forward, I moved about 1 meter. When I turn about 90 degrees. This place matches that earlier place. But some of these rules slightly disagree because of drift. This is how the robot solved a big adjustment problem. What small changes can I make to all my past positions so that all rules agree as much as possible? Instead of correcting only the current position, it adjusts the entire path slightly. This square becomes a clean square again. The wrapped map becomes consistent. This global adjustment is called graph optimization. Now that we understand the basic idea of SLAM, let's look at how modern SLAM systems are accurately structured. Today, almost all advanced SLAM systems are divided into two main layers, front end and back end. You can think of it like this. The front end reacts quickly, the back end thinks deeply. Modern SLAM is split into front end, fast local motion estimation, back end, slow global correction. Each has a very different role. The front end runs every frame. Its job is simple. Estimate how the robot just moved. Every time a new sensor measurement arrives, from a camera, LiDAR, or IMU, the front end processes it immediately. It typically performs sensor pre-processing, feature extraction or scan matching, frame-to-frame alignment, odometry estimation. At the end of this process, the front end outputs the relative motion between the previous pose and the current pose. But there is a problem. Because it only compares the current frame to the previous one, small errors accumulate. This is called drift. Over time, tiny mistakes in motion estimation add up. So you can think of it like this. The front end processes the trajectory, is fast but not perfect. Backend for global optimization. The backend runs less frequently. It doesn't process every frame. Instead, it looks at the bigger picture. Its job is to make the entire trajectory consistent. The backend builds something called a pose graph. Each robot pose becomes a node, each motion estimate becomes an edge. When the robot revisits a place it has seen before, the system detects a loop closure. This creates a new constraint between distant poses. Now the backend solved a global optimization problem. So instead of letting drift grow, the backend distributes the error across the whole trajectory. The map straightens out, the poses becomes consistent. In simple terms, the front end processes the trajectory, the back end corrects the trajectory. Now let's talk about how SLAM actually works in Rust 2 in a practical way. In Rust 2, SLAM is usually used to build the 2D map of an unknown environment using laser scans or odometry. Once the map is created, we can save it and later use it for localization and autonomous navigation. For beginners, the most popular and easiest package to use is the SLAM Toolbox. So let's break this down clearly. Before you even launch SLAM, your robot must provide three essential things. If any of these are missing, SLAM won't work properly. First, you need a LiDAR. It publishes scan messages. This is the main sensor used to detect walls, obstacles, corners, and the structure of the environment. Without reliable laser data, SLAM cannot build a meaningful map. Second, you need odometry. This usually comes from well encoders or a fuse estimator like robot localization. As we told before, odometry estimates how the robot moves between scans. Third, and this is critical, you must have a correct TF3. In ROS2, the TF3 defines how different coordinate frames are connected to each other. For SLAM and navigation, the most important chain is map, ODM, baselink. Let's understand this simply. Map is the fixed word frame, it represents the environment. ODM comes from the wheel odometry, it tracks motion smoothly but slowly drifts over time. Baselink is the robot's body frame, the actual position of the robot. If your TF3 is broken, the robot may jump in RVs or a SLAM may fail completely. Many SLAM problems are actually TF problems. Once everything is ready, starting a SLAM is simple. When you launch this, several components start automatically. The SLAM node, the map publisher, the pose graph optimizer, the loop closure system. Everything begins running in real time. Now let's understand what actually happens when your robot starts moving. As the robot drives, it receives odometry updates. It collects laser scans continuously. It aligns each new scan with previous ones. This is called scan matching, and it builds something called a pose graph. If the robot revisits a place it has seen before, loop closure is triggered. Then the system optimizes the entire pose graph. This reduces accumulated drift. Finally, a clean and consistent occupancy grid map is published, and all of this happens live. Once exploration is complete, save the map. This creates YAML and PGM files. Now your map is stored and ready to use. At this point, a SLAM is done. Once the map is saved, stop SLAM, launch the nav2 stack, start MACL for localization, which we talked about in previous tutorial. And that's SLAM in practice. How robots build maps and understand their position in unknown environment. Mastering SLAM means understanding one of the core pillars of autonomous robotics. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next tutorial.